Hello everybody, Andrew Field here. I'm really sorry for the long delay. I had stuff going on like vacation, but I should have made it before I did. So since there's so much news to cover, I'm going to separate it into two different videos, and this one's going to be the longer of the two. Um, so to kick things off, Oregon governor demands that the state police find the GOP senators that were avoiding a climate vote. Trump grew frustrated of John Bolton for pressuring him to strike. Tucker Carlson, Fox News anchor, was one of the people who told Trump not to strike, saying it was in the country's best interest and it would bury his reelection chances. Which is surprising that Tucker Carlson would say the right thing, but I agree um, that it could have happened. But going along with that strike, that was after the military drone got shot down. Trump was about to strike Iran and he didn't. And although that could have happened, I did think that he should have done a retaliatory strike, but he didn't. Um, Obama and others warned that pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal could lead to war, which is kind of what's going on right now. The Trump administration has few options besides war to stop Iran from becoming nuclear. Trump put more sanctions on Iran, and it seemed like he was putting it on like the leader and other high military officials. He says military action was always on the table, and says it was wise of Iran not to shoot down a plane with 38 passengers. Trump and others are telling allies in Congress that they believe Iran won't be able to handle the economic, domestic, um, political costs, perhaps forcing them to agree to a new nuclear accord. That's their plan. John Bolton visited Israel um, and met Israeli and Russians to talk about Iran, most likely. And, is a meeting with Israeli officials that simulated the same Israeli officials that simulated bombing Iran's nuclear facilities during the Obama administration. Worked with the U.S. a decade ago to orchestrate a cyber attack against Iran's major enrichment site. Mike Pompeo smiled meeting with the Prince of Saudi Arabia, which is not a good look after killing Jamal Khashoggi, the reporter for the Washington Post. Being buddy buddy with a dictator, it's not a good sign for America. Um, Trump said that Iran attacking anything American would be met with overwhelming force, so we're at that point now where if anything else were to go down, most likely it would lead to military conflict. After Iran said this was made after Iran said that the White House was mentally crippled. Um, Trump actually made history with North Korea because he crossed into the border of North Korea through the DMZ, which seems like big progress. Um, but you know, it's not to be taken like too much though, because like in effect, because even though that is a big step, it seemed like it could be just like for cameras and pictures, because I don't think they've gotten like a deal done. But at least we're talking. It's a better situation than Iran, actually, right now. As Trump is propping up the coal industry last week, gutting Obama's climate pollution standards. Now this is like a couple weeks ago. Illinois is moving more away from coal. The Dutch government presents measures to reduce carbon emissions, which is good signs. Talking about Venezuela, updating Maduro government. The Maduro government says the assassination attempt against Maduro, his wife, and several high-ranking government officials was thwarted. A network of retired police officers and soldiers planned to bomb a government building, seize a um, Caracas Air Base, which is the capital, loot the country's central bank, and steal a helicopter to free former defense minister Raul Badul from jail and put him as president. Juan Guaido was involved in the plot, who the U.S. and the world says is Venezuela's true leader. Maduro calls out the United States, Colombia, and Chile for being involved. He thought they were involved. While hundreds of thousands of protesters peacefully protest the extraction bill, a separate group invaded Hong Kong's legislature building. On the 22nd anniversary of China getting Hong Kong from Great Britain, Chinese officials say Hong Kong radicals will be held criminally accountable. 250,000 Czech Republic protesters demanded the Prime Minister Andrej uh, Andrej Babis resign for fraud and working with communist-era secret police. Babis is a billionaire tycoon. He denied accusations. A no confidence vote shall be had, and hopefully he does get ousted for that to be true, because it sounds kind of like Russia, and that's not a good sign. Um, uh, Sad thing was at the G20 meeting when all the leaders were there. Trump brought his daughter Ivanka, which is totally unnecessary in a place she shouldn't have been. Trump delayed immigration raids for 2 weeks. That could have been deported. They could have deported 2,000. This was like a couple weeks ago. After a phone call with Nancy Pelosi, Trump blames family separations on Obama, and he says he tries to bring. He said that he tries to bring families together. The Trump administration failed, thinking that being harsher on the border would stop immigrants from coming in because now they're coming in higher numbers, worried that the border is going to be cut off. Smugglers tell, like I was saying, smugglers are telling immigrants it's now or never. Democratic, about the Democratic debates, I thought they were very good. The primary debates, what surprised me was that the people that you wouldn't know their names or you wouldn't really consider actually did a pretty good job as well, in my opinion. Um, they cared about a father and a baby when they were talking about immigration that drowned trying to cross the southern border through, I think, the Rio Grande River. Cameras were not able to get into detention centers on the border. Alyssa Milano was not able to see the detention centers. Wayfair employees had a walkout of work last Wednesday, a couple Wednesdays ago, to protest making beds for the like immigration centers. Um, yeah, so it's just protesting because they know that what's going on on the border is wrong, and these children aren't being treated fairly. So they walked out. Arrests along the southern border expected to drop 25% in June. Trump plan could make 400,000 households lose food stamps. Trump may seek a second term when the economy is slowing and unemployment is rising. Trump calls a lady who accuses him excuse me. Trump calls a lady who accuses him of sexual assault not my type. She becomes a 22nd accuser against him. The New York Post took down an article covering the accuser because the person supported Trump. So that's my call to the New York Post for being disgusting and taking down the article that was going to cover the accuser just because the person supports Trump, not wanting people to see the facts. Trump thanked himself on Twitter. He did an exclusive interview with The Hill. He said that he has kept Congress involved but does not need Congress to strike Iran. And that's not true because Congress always should be involved. That's why there should be a balance of power. And he seems like he doesn't want that balance of power, and he wants to just like play that he does, saying that he's had them involved in the past. But yeah, especially for something like that could lead to war, like striking Iran, Congress should be involved. The White House bars Kellyanne Conway from testifying on violating the Hatch Act. Attorney General William Barr played bagpipes during the Justice Department event. Jimmy Carter says Trump only won the election because of Russia. Trump met with the Australian Prime Minister before the G20 summit. 2 years after Trump saw the Bastille Day parade in France, Trump had a military parade on July 4th, and some call it a political rally. July 4th is usually not political. Presidents usually stayed at home or went to festivities. Trump aides defended him, saying it was patriotic over political, but it does not seem it that way when he commands it. Some say he's celebrating the military over freedom, and people were saying that there's already holidays to commemorate veterans, like Veterans Day or Memorial Day, and July 4th should just be like celebrating our independence and our freedom versus just the military. But the military definitely played a role because if, you know, we were to lose like our wars, then, we wouldn't have these freedoms and we'd probably be controlled by a different nation. So I think it is very important to, you know, celebrate with the military, but people are just seeing it as political. He flubbed during his speech and he said that the military watched over the airports in 1776. Trump's speech called America together. The Blue Angels roared in the sky. The tanks were in the VIP section. There was a fireworks show. It seemed that the event favored Republicans, recommended Americans to join the military. 2.5 million in fees from the national parks went to this event. 2 blocks from the White House, people gave 5,000 free USS John S. McCain T-shirts. Trump approval rating to veterans is 56%, where the public's approval is 42%. Joe Biden announced a climate change plan that puts the U.S. at zero emissions by 2050. The media did not really report it well because I didn't know about it before, and I saw a lot of reports about like a climate report that gave him a very bad rating, like not caring about climate change. But then when he did put out the report, I had to like find it out myself, like not through the major articles, but like literally looking up Joe Biden climate change plan. So um, it made me upset because that would have swayed my vote for 2020 if he didn't have a plan for climate change, but he does now, and I wouldn't have known that if I didn't do the research myself. So kind of sucked the media didn't capture that well. Biden in 1975 said he would back ban busing, and Kamala Harris took him down for that. I think he did well on the um, debates, though. I don't know if others did, but I think he did pretty well. Pete Buttigieg focuses on a of a black man by South Bend police. A lack of black voters drags Buttigieg's campaign. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is legalizing marijuana starting January 1st. A $4.4 billion House bill would make conditions better for migrant families entering the U.S. The White House wants to veto the bill. A New Hampshire highway collision left 7 motorcyclists dead and 3 injured. A small plane in Hawaii crashed and the 9 passengers died. ICE director defended immigration raids. The families to be taken got final deportation orders from a judge and did not appear in court. So there was steps beforehand. Bernie Sanders proposes a total elimination of student debt, 1.6 trillion, held by 45 million by a 0.5 tax on all trades. With college is very expensive right now, and it's really bad to where with a lot of colleges you're gonna have to take on student debt before you could even get your career. So I think the college system is very broken, and if Bernie was able to pull that off, that'd be a huge benefit to people like me because I'm going to be going into college this next year. Not this year, but the next year. Joe Biden is on an important questionnaire with Democratic candidates. It was on the New York Times. Politico also had an article that said that where politicals, excuse me, said where candidates were on different issues. Democrats seek to ban federal spending at Trump businesses. The governor of Washington is front-running on climate change, stating that he would fight the fossil fuel industry. Republicans did not show up to vote on a climate bill. Um, just reiterating that. The Supreme Court blocks a citizenship question on the 2020 census. John Roberts required the Commerce Department to have an explanation for modifying the census. The Trump administration reversed their decision to try and get the citizenship question on the 2020 census. The census is a national survey conducted every 10 years by all U.S. citizens about things like taxation and political representation. Navy SEAL Gallagher was not convicted of murder after a witness claims to have killed the ISIS captive by military jury. Witness was granted immunity uh, from um, criminal charges, which is not right. Gallagher also might have shot unarmed civilians. Teens are growing horn-like bone spurs from tilting heads down to look at bones. A Dominican Republic resort has been more careful securing their guests after a U.S. tourist died there. 10 tourists have died. Chicago Architecture River Cruise ranks second in the world, behind the Vatican tour. A proposed California bill could bankrupt Uber and Lyft by calling drivers employees instead of contractors. John Ive, Apple's design chief, is leaving. People are making the Mueller report a novel and a play, played by Hollywood stars. A man will get the Medal of Honor single-handedly clearing a house of Iraqi insurgents. I think that man already got the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor, excuse me. Neo-Nazi in the Charlottesville attack that drove a car into the crowd gets life in prison, which is good. Scientists are making a solar-powered robot bee, which I think is dumb. Chicago had a pride parade to finish celebrating Pride Month. Japan is continuing commercial whaling. Americans are not visiting landmarks anymore. It's like that, which was a chief way to like remember our country's history. The numbers are going down across the whole country. An outbreak of salmonella occurred across 13 states from pig ear dog treats. 21 people were injured in a gas explosion in Florida. Nike gets rid of Betsy Ross flag shoes after Colin Kaepernick rejects them, saying it was offensive because slavery was going on at that time. And I think that that makes sense. Like if it was a Confederate flag, because that that was the flag, of like slavery, but the Betsy Ross flag was like the first flag of America and had nothing to do with slavery, so I think it was kind of stupid for them to take it down and just listen to Kaepernick. 6.4 magnitude earthquake hit Southern California on Independence Day in a not too populated area, followed by a 7.1 earthquake, which is 11 times stronger than the first earthquake. It was the strongest earthquake in 2 decades and produced 1,400 aftershocks. The U.S. Treasury yield curve flipped. It has predicted the last 7 recessions. A man filed lawsuit of Georgia discriminating Puerto Ricans with driver license quiz. More than 100 died in India from heat waves. Bihar state imposed a curfew to keep people inside. Temperatures reached 118 degrees in New Delhi on June 10th. They are handing out free drinking water. In Chiru, the temperature reached 122 degrees on June 1st. India is expected to be one of the worst countries hit by climate change. The women's team beat Spain 2-1 to advance to the quarterfinals. Um, they won 2-1 again over France to send them into the semifinals. They beat England to reach the finals, and U.S. had dominant performance to beat the Netherlands 2-0 to win the World Cup. One woman on the women's team took a knee during the anthem. FIFA boss and Macron were booed at the final ceremony because U.S. fans want equal opportunities, like pay. And Italy's going to hold the 2026 Winter Olympics. But I want to say a great job, women's team, on your outstanding effort to beat all of these good teams and win the World Cup. So good job for them. They're great. Alright, if you like the video, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Peace out, everybody.